Hey everybody, this is Tracy here for another edition of A View from Tracy's Point, and we are here to recap Queen Sugar Season 2, Episode 6, which was titled Lines of Our Elders. So someone asked me, why am I so hard on Ralph Angel? So the truth is, Ralph Angel represents every guy that I have ever dated and decided to overlook their faults and their failings and giving them a chance only to be disappointed that beneath that I'm a good guy, I'm a good father, I'm out here working hard and make things happen. They always, they always are unable to escape the decisions of their past. And they'll have that one exterior that they present when we were together, but then they were still out there married to them streets, married to them friends that they wasn't ready to give up, and just couldn't break that mold or mentality. And then all of a sudden all their failings becomes my fault. The reason they can't succeed is because I'm not supporting them, I'm not encouraging them, I'm not doing this and I'm not doing that. So that is why I don't like Ralph Angel, and that is why I can see through all his nonsense and where the writers are going with his character on this show. So before we get started, does anyone know the significance of Blue, Micah, and Hollywood wearing those light blue suits at the end of the show, while Ralph Angel had on like the cream wheat colored suit? Like, I'm sure that was something, that it was symbolic or something. So I was just wondering, did anybody peep that, and did you know what any of that meant? So it's opening day for Queen Sugar Mill, and the headstone for Ernest has arrived. And so Ralph Angel, all in his feelings, is still mad that Charlie hired a dollar and is about to drive him over the edge. And so the headstone came in, and I think it's like a family headstone, because in New Orleans I think they do like the mausoleums and everybody's buried together, but it had like the family history on it, and then they had added Ernest's name to the bottom of the list. So Ralph Angel, he's feeling some kind of way because Charlie isn't there, but Nova's like, Charlie is opening the mill today. She has a lot of stuff to do, and, she can't come over here right now. So in the house, searching for a certificate, later on, Nova comes across some mail that came in, and it was Ernest's final check. Remember, he used to have the job. And so it turns out that no one knew that Ernest had the job. Well, his friends knew, but none of the kids knew that he was working. And I don't think Aunt Vi knew either. So the check came just in time because Ralph Angel needs a new refrigerator, because when Nova went out to tell him about the check, he was mopping up water. So Nova decides to go to the company, and she learns that her dad was a janitor, at this place. And the HR rep, tells her that they didn't know what happened, that Ernest just suddenly stopped showing up to work, but he was a really good employee. And she gives Nova this box and says that, we cleared out his locker. But when she opened the box, it was a pair of disposable gloves and, well, not disposable gloves, but those rubber work gloves. It was a pair of those and a picture of Blue. So I was like, that was all that was in his locker. But anyway, Nova's feeling some kind of way about learning that her daddy was cleaning up for these white folks. So Nova arrives at the mill and approaches Ralph Angel and Prosper, because they were walking through talking. And so she questions Ralph Angel about not knowing their father had a job. And so Prosper jumps in and says, it's not Ralph Angel's fault, that Ernest, he knew Ernest had a job, but he just never knew where it was or what he was doing. So Nova surmises that, he didn't tell anybody because he was ashamed that, he was no longer farming and making money that way. So he took this job, to fool everybody. So later at the ceremony, Nova has to explain the significance of the meal to Micah, letting him know that it is his legacy and that, Charlie did all this for him. Then we move over to Charlie, and she's called a reporter friend named Adam, or a reporter that she knew from California named Adam, to come cover the opening of the mill. But the paper sent another guy to cover the story because Adam was working on some big story in San Francisco. So this guy that they sent, he's looking to make a name for himself and is trying to get Charlie, to give him a story, that can propel his career. At least I think that's what was going on. So Charlie's trying to, stick with this line about, the meal was to honor her father, but the reporter, he seems to be more interested in her and Davis and asking her, where is Davis? Why isn't he here for this big moment? And why isn't he supporting you? And Charlie says that he had like a previous engagement down in Miami and it was already set, before she picked the date, of the opening of the bill. And the guy was still like, okay, well, you should have changed the date, or, David should have made up his mind. But I'm wondering if the significance of her opening the mill on that particular day was to coincide with when the headstone was due to be in, so kind of like new beginnings, or she's making things right with her dad. Then Charlie calls in Remy to go with her and the guy on a tour of the mill, but the guy senses that there's more, to their relationship than being colleagues. And the two of them weren't doing a good job of fooling him. So Remy, he finally had to give Charlie the signal, like, be quiet and let me handle this. And so he's telling the guy that him and Charlie, didn't just meet when it came to the meal, that he was actually Ernest's best friend. And so that's how, he got to know Charlie and stepped in to try and help her, take care of the farm and all of that stuff. So then the guy was like, oh, really? And then Remy was like, yeah, well, we're more like sisters and brothers. I'm just like, really? Is that what y'all gonna go with? And back in Charlie's office, Remy brings up that she didn't mention to the guy that she was getting a divorce. And so she lets him know that her and Davis agreed that they're not going to mention the divorce until everything is final, and that was several months away. So she also lets Remy know that she took his advice to heart and saw a therapist. And I'm like, now we know that you didn't see that therapist on your own, Charlie, that the only reason you talked to that therapist was because Micah didn't show up. But, Charlie is the master of deflection, and Remy fell for it, hook, line, and sinker, and he thinking that, that's a special bond between them because he was the one that told her she needed to consider seeking some professional help. So he thinks that he has guided her in a much-needed decision that she needed to make. So back with the reporter, he starts asking Charlie about there not being any other black-owned mills ever in Louisiana, and he wants to know, how the white owners of mills feel about it. But when Charlie replies with the, I did it for my daddy's memory, he calls BS, and it's like, girl, if you don't stop with this nonsense, because I'm not going to, write this little fluff piece that you want me to write, and it was evident he was growing impatient with Charlie, but Charlie stayed the course, so now I'm thinking that's just going to propel the guy to want to dig deeper and find out more about, what's going on with her and with Davis, and that may be his whole angle too. Like, he doesn't care about Charlie and this meal. He's trying to find out, get a story on Davis because, he brought up about them paying the lady off and all this other stuff. And so I don't know what his angle is, but he is not there for Charlie and that doggone meal. So then later on, a massive bouquet of flowers arrive, and Charlie thinks that they're from her mom, like as an apology gift for not being able to come to the opening of the mill. Which I'm thinking, like, Charlie's relationship with her mother must be hell on wheels, because you would think that in an event that momentous, that large, would have gotten her mother on a plane and down there to Louisiana to support her daughter, but it didn't. So I thought, the flowers were from Davis, but we were both wrong. The flowers were from Sam Landry, and he was welcoming her into the club. So then we move on, and the event has started. And can someone please explain to me why Nova and Ralph Angel were not up on the stage with Charlie during the ribbon cutting ceremony? And I know it's Charlie's meal, but I thought that the whole thing was about family and the father's legacy and all of that. But instead, Charlie's up there with some politicians, which she knows she should have had her family up there with her. But Ralph Angel, he's just annoyed and irritated from Jump Street, but Nova seemed to be okay with sitting out in the audience. So part of the ceremony was to have all the farmers bring a sample from their crops to run through the mill, to baptize or christen the mill. So she did have Ralph Angel and Blue come up first to drop their cane into the little bucket thing. So then something goes wrong, and after the little ceremony, they're all like standing around talking. And then these alarms go off, and so Charlie's freaking out, and then she goes and runs, into the back where the machines are. And it turns out that when they were running the cane through the machine, something got clogged or something, and so the system was choking, and that's what caused the alarm to go off. So Charlie is just like freaking out. So she's asking Remy, like, well, what do we have to do? And so he's explaining that the workers have to, they turn the machine off, and then the workers go up into the machine and dig all the stuff out. So Charlie pushes the man to the side, and she's just up there, pulling all this stuff out of the machine, and she's all frantic and acting crazy, and everybody looking at her like, girl, what the hell is wrong with you? So, child, please, the reporter comes back, but Dollar cut him off at the path, and like, this is restricted area, and you ain't supposed to be here, so we're gonna need you to leave up from out of here. But he hadn't seen enough to know that Charlie is cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. So then Nova finally gets Charlie to calm down and get her away from the machine so the professionals could deal with the choking of the machine and get all the stuff out. So Charlie finally shares with her that Ernest had actually called her, before he got sick and passed away, and well, of course, before he passed away, but before he had the stroke or whatever he died from. But he had called and asked her to come and down to the farm because he needed her help. But she was dealing with Davis and his shenanigans that she never made it down there, so she's feeling guilty. And that's why, she wanted to open the mill and create this legacy and to honor, the fact that he needed her to come and help. And so now she's using, the mill to make things right with him. But then Nova confesses that she didn't know the last time she had talked to their dad before he died, and that when she finally made it to the hospital, he wasn't able to talk at all. And I was thinking like, oh my God, but that is so common within families, and people can be on Facebook, talking about, how close-knit their families are and all this stuff. But I'm telling you, this is very common in families where people are not talking to their parents, or not, and it's not that they're even angry with the parents, it's just that they get caught up in their own lives, and people move out of state, and they don't get to come home as often as they should. So I could totally understand that little scene with Charlie and Nova. Charlie realizes that nothing she does is going to help her escape this reporter. But what I couldn't understand was why she hasn't introduced him to Nova, because Nova would know how to deal with him, or even have Nova with her when the guy is questioning her, since it's obvious that he's trying to get more information out of her than what she wanted the Adam guy to do. And then I was also thinking, what happened to Mr. Dubois? Because I'm thinking that Nova should have invited him to the opening, and I'm sure he would have came, because he's all into her, and I think the fact that they're making history would have been like something he would have really been excited about. But she didn't even mention Mr. Dubois on this episode. But anyway, Mr. Reporter Man lets Charlie know, that he witnessed her breakdown down there in the trying to unclog that machine. And so Charlie says that, it was a private matter and that it's off the record, but he lets her know that it happened and that he saw it. So it's not off the record. So then he asks her, why must she micromanage every aspect of her life? So he done figured out that she's a perfectionist. Rather than deal with the question, Charlie decides that, she's going to throw him a bone. And so she admits that the promise that she made to her father was actually made after he died. But unlike Remy, this guy wasn't falling for Charlie and her bull crap, because he tells Charlie that he sees a woman who is about perfection and control, and what he's looking for is a woman who's human and has a human story to tell. So Charlie, she's still trying to manage the story and want it to come out the way, that she wants it to come out. She needs to narrate everything that's going on. So she makes a deal with him that if he writes this feel-good story that she's looking for, that she'll give him the exclusive when her and Davis announce their divorce. Now, I don't know if that's going to work or if that's going to hold him at bay, but that's her little strategy for right now. Then we move over to Dollar. So, Dollar's being all professional and proficient in her new role as the office assistant. And I was a little impressed with Dollar, but I spoke a little too soon because there was a scene where she was walking and she had like a notepad and she's talking on the phone and she had a cup of coffee. And she must not have been getting what she needed out of the person that was on the phone because she accidentally spilled the coffee all over her shirt. And then she cursed. And I'm just like, oh my God, Dollar, no, 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 no. So she ends up getting off the phone with the guy. And then when Charlie, sees that she's messed up her shirt, she tells Dollar to go over to her living quarters and to change it to something new for the ceremony, something different for the ceremony. So then when Dollar goes over to Charlie's place, Michael was there getting dressed, and I don't know why. But I was feeling some kind of way about that little scene with Dollar and Micah where she helped him tie the tie. And then, I don't know, it was just the music or something that was going on that I was like, okay, this feels a little inappropriate. But then Micah asked her, when did she learn to tie a tie like that? And then, I can't remember what she said. She didn't know or something, I don't know. But anyway, she made sure that she picked out a badass dress for her to wear to this little ceremony, and she was a little overdressed because it was a black dress, but all this up here was lace and had like a nude undertone to it, so it kind of looked like she was naked underneath. So I don't know if that was really appropriate for an afternoon groundbreaking or ribbon cutting ceremony, but that's what Dollar wanted to roll up in the end. So when Ralph Angel sees Dollar at the ceremony, his first thought is, first you go work for Charlie and now you wearing her clothes, being all nasty and everything. So after she explains what happened, he tries to clean it up, by telling her how good she looks. And then, we see the Ralph Angel, who wants to be all kind and compassionate and everything. And they're like, Ralph Angel, we see you. We see right through you. At the end of the night, Dollar comes into Charlie's living quarters and let her know that all the vendors have been paid and everything has been taken care of. So to celebrate, the success of the event, Charlie grabs 2 glasses and a bottle of wine, but then she quickly realizes her mistake and, switches it to iced tea and apologizes, to Dollar for her insensitivity. So Dollar assures Charlie, that the mishap with the machine, wasn't that bad. We all have things that happen to us and, things don't always go the way that we plan. So Charlie tells her that she hasn't met her mother, which was so awkward. And then Dollar responds, well, you haven't met my father. So I guess they both came from like really controlling fathers or parents that expected perfection from them. So the two of them have like a bonding moment, and Dollar, invites Charlie. She tells her that, she's getting ready to celebrate 2 years of sobriety, and I guess at her counseling meetings that, they're going to have like a celebration or ceremony for her. So she asks Charlie, if she'll come, and celebrate her sobriety with her. And so Charlie, says that, she would love to be there. Then we move over to Aunt Vi in Hollywood. And, like I say, I think Hollywood might be getting on Aunt Vi's nerve because she seems to be a little annoyed with him at every turn. So she's in the kitchen, baking her pies, and Hollywood, running around like her errand boy, and he comes in, with the vanilla extract and the lemon extract and the chocolate extract and all this stuff. And so they're talking and joking, and then he tells her, she needs to go get ready to go to the cemetery. And I was a little confused because 1 minute I thought the thing at the cemetery and the ribbon cutting ceremony was on the same day, but then they seemed to be on different days, or maybe one was early in the day and the other one was later in the day. I couldn't figure out what was going on or if they were on different days. But anyway, Hollywood offered to go and deliver the pies while Aunt Vi was at the cemetery, but Aunt Vi said she wasn't going to the cemetery. So, Hollywood told her she had to go. She said she wasn't going. She didn't like cemeteries and she didn't want to be there. And then at the opening ceremony, he was getting under her skin again, talking about, she needed to go to this ceremony. And I'm thinking, you better leave Aunt Vi alone. So then we have a scene where Ralph Angel and Blue are in the store, and who should appear behind the counter to wait on them? None other than the cashier from, remember the very first episode from season 1 where he robbed that convenience store. So why this girl working at the grocery store, the drugstore, wherever they was at, seemed like a step up to me to where she was at now. And she remembered Ralph Angel. And so she said, I know you, you're the guy. And then Ralph Angel was like, you don't know me. I had never seen you before. And then she was like, you do know, you liar. You cost me my job. And so, he was like, lady, I don't know you. And then when Ralph Angel reached back to get the money out of his pocket, the girl almost had a heart attack because remember when he robbed that store, he had a gun. So I guess she thought he was about to pull a gun on her, and she damn near had a heart attack. But he threw a few dollars on the counter and then rushed out with Blue and was like, oh my God, like how did this happen? So I don't know if she gonna end up calling the police on Ralph Angel, if she gonna let it slide, or what's gonna go on with that situation. So then the day after the mill opening, like I'm thinking it was the day after the mill opening because I couldn't tell when all this stuff was going on. But they have the ceremony, for the headstone. And then I realized in this episode that the only time Nova actually seems happy is when she's in the company of a man. But when Nova is alone, she's very solemn and, I don't know, like reflective, and she just doesn't seem like a really happy person if she's not, cheesing in some man's face. So she and Aunt Vi, they stand together as they talk about missing her mom and how the mom, didn't want a headstone. And then Nova was saying something about, but she's free now. And then she lay her head on Aunt Vi's shoulder like she was about to cry. And then in the next scene, they join everybody else where they're actually at the mausoleum or whatever they call it, where they bury the families. And so they join the others, and the preacher, he's speaking and, talking about, sort of like doing a prayer, over the little ceremony. And then he turns it over to Nova, and then she does one of her little rituals, calling on the spirit of her father and letting him know that they had done everything that he had asked them to do, and that they were honoring his wishes. And then the camera pans over to Ralph Angel, and he's looking at like, we ain't doing what his wishes because I got this letter, and until we do what's in this letter, we haven't honored his wishes. And I'm just like, whoo, we know he gonna finally get this off his chest eventually. And then there was a scene where the camera panned over to Blue, and Blue dropped that, he had that doggone Kenya doll, and he dropped the doll on the ground. And so Blue looked down and he went to pick the doll up, but then all of a sudden he stood back up. And then I think, okay, Blue done realized that ain't that original Kenya doll. But the expression on his face when he realized it was like, oh, they think they got me. But like, he was so cute in that moment. I was like, oh, look at Blue. He may be growing up after all and not gonna get upset. So then when they get back at the house, Ralph Angel comes in, and Blue is like hiding behind the curtains, and he's crying and carrying on. And when Ralph Angel goes over, and asks him what's wrong, he says that that wasn't the Kenya doll. That wasn't his Kenya doll. They done switched up the damn dolls because his doll had a birthmark. So Ralph Angel, he comes clean and tells Blue that the original Kenya was thrown away. And then Blue is like, why did he get thrown away? And Ralph Angel said it was an accident. And then Blue asked if Kenya had done something wrong, and that was why she got thrown away. And then, Ralph Angel said, no, it was just an accident. And then Blue said, well, did I do something wrong? And then, Ralph Angel's trying to comfort him and tell him, no, you didn't do anything wrong. So then Blue seized the moment and asked Ralph Angel, why did the lady at the store call him a liar? Because I think Blue done put it together like, I was crying about that doll, and y'all told me that here go my doll, y'all found my doll. Now you telling me that the doll is thrown away. So is this what the lady was talking about you being a liar and you can't tell the truth? You know, but Ralph Angel, you know, told him that, well, I ain't lying no more. You know, I'm through lying. So that was our second clue that he about to tell us, you know, tell his siblings about what was in that letter. So the family gathers for dinner, you know, and then Aunt Vi insists that Ralph Angel say the grace. I don't know why she didn't just let Hollywood say the grace, but she said, no, Ralph Angel need to say the grace. Wrong move, because he done boosted himself up, you know, to tell them about that letter. And so he's, you know, saying the grace, and then all of a sudden he started talking to his daddy, and they start looking at him, and Aunt Vi know what's coming. So then he says that, you know, he ain't been telling the truth. The Dollar looking all up at him with loving eyes, like, yeah, baby, I am so glad you finally about to tell them that that's our land, that that's not their land. But, you know, things was tense around that table. So then Charlie, you know, called him out and she's like, you mean you've been lying to us all this time? Aunt Vi was like, Micah, get Blue and take him outside. He don't need to be hearing this. And all I could think was, poor Blue. He done heard people call his daddy a liar twice in 2 days, and then the daddy done lied to him about that Kenya doll. So I think Ralph Angel and Blue relationship is about to change. So Charlie was like, Aunt Vi, you knew, Dollar, you knew. She was calling them all out. And so she went on about how she done uprooted her life, you know, to come there and do all this stuff and get that mill up and running because she thought it was going to help the family and help the farmers. And then Dollar chimed in, and Hollywood was like, I think it's best if we stay out of this because we ain't blood relation to these people. Let them work this out. And then Nova was like, you know, Daddy mop floors and clean toilets, you know, so he could keep clothes on your son and a roof over your head and food for you to eat. And, you know, you didn't even know that Daddy was out there doing this. And so she was all angry. And then Ralph Angel threw up in her face that you live right up the road over there in New Orleans and you didn't even call him on the phone, let alone come visit. And Charlie, you was all out there in California, you know, living your life. So he was like, y'all ain't gonna put all of this on me. So then Charlie was like, what the hell? You know, and Aunt Vi and Hollywood was like, oh boy, it's about to get ugly up in here. Now, I was confused as to, you know, when they was talking about Ralph Angel lived in the house with Ernest and he didn't know what was going on, or that Ernest was, you know, working this part-time job. But then I remember that Ralph Angel was out, you know, sticking up convenience stores while Blue played at the park. And so I think Ralph Angel then kind of forgot about that. There, you know, Ralph Angel, you know, he starts internalizing that, you know, they are ashamed of him. And it's like, no, Ralph Angel, they are not ashamed of him. You are ashamed of you, and you're holding on to the guilt of your past, but you're trying to deflect it on everybody else so you don't have to face your own demons. But then when Nova, you know, tries to run out, you know, say she don't want to deal with this anymore and she's sick of the whole, you know, thing that's going on, Aunt Vi runs after her and says, no one is leaving this house until we settle this mess. And I'm thinking y'all might be stuck up in their house for the rest of the season because y'all got a whole lot of mess that y'all got to get through. But next week looked like it's gonna be good too. But this was probably by far the best episode of the season, and so we'll see what's gonna happen next week. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode. You know, is Ralph Angel wrong? You know, are they wrong to feel the way that they felt about Ernest being a janitor? Like, why are they looking down on that, you know, and thinking so negatively about their father, you know, being a janitor? You know, is it a pride thing, or is it their guilt for not, you know, being more attentive and concerned about what was going on in his life? Leave your comments below, rate the video, subscribe to the channel. You can do all of that below. And I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend, and I shall talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.